how the whole thing started.
For me.
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was diagnosed with a terminal inoperable glioblastoma multiforme brain tumor in 2014, September 2014, after a biopsy. And basically, they said, I'd done lots of research prior to that, so I knew that there was not much I could do apart from standard of care or die. That's the only two options, essentially, that they give you in hospital care. So, I think after I recovered from my operation, I was asked to come back into the hospital. I saw I didn't even see my oncologist. She assumed that I wanted to do chemotherapy and radiotherapy. So I was there for the radiotherapy mask fitting. And in that fitting, they helped me to decide to not do radiotherapy or chemotherapy by being unprepared for me having a beard and even agreeing to be there in the first place. So I'm going to go into the room after the mask fitting, after they hacked my beard off with some scissors, to cut a long story short. And I just felt in my guts, like in my hara, that this was not a good feeling. This I didn't want to do this. So I said, I got to talk to my oncologist. I got to ask some pertinent questions. I got to ask them if this is going to make me live for a long period of time, or if this is going to kill me. To which her answer was, well, with the standard of care, you will probably survive 12 to 15 months. That's generally the cutoff point for anyone undergoing standard care with a GPM4 brain tumor. And I said, okay, what about without standard of care? She said, well, because of your general health, you don't have any subcutaneous fat, all these good bonuses that you've got. 6 to 9 months rather than 3 to 6 is what she would normally give patients. And I said, okay, well, what about the ketogenic diet, which I've read a lot about for helping children with epilepsy, but it's also anti-inflammatory and could have beneficial effects. And she said, there's no proof that any of that works. So I don't suggest you do it. I suggest you go on chemotherapy and radiotherapy and see how that goes. And I said, well, she also implied that I'd probably lose my hair. I would probably lose the ability to reproduce. So I need to bank my sperm. And all of these things just added up to a no-go for me. It was a no-brainer. I said, well, I was brought up on homeopathy and alternative ideals. So I thought, it's better to live well than to die unwell, in my opinion. So I chose to live well with love and my own insight.
So when you got diagnosed with this multiforme, glioblastoma multiforme, you started to have some kind of intensive research. I mean, internet and wherever you could find information about this specific form of brain tumor. That was your.
Well, I did broad research because, like, my background is it's a kind of general spirituality and homeopathy and that plants are healing and all these things. The idea, different philosophies than most people are brought up with. So I was always an outsider to my friends because I thought in different ways. So when it came to it, I went, okay, well, I got really depressed. And then I was like, hey, there's got to be an answer on the internet, this big, beautiful, wonderful internet that we've got. So I did like 2 months of research. And it was like a broad spectrum, because I didn't know if it was a primary brain tumor or secondary, et cetera, et cetera. But I did the research and glioblastoma was like the deadliest, of course, because there's no cure. And then lower grades are easier to manage as far as I was aware. So when the surgeon came out and told me about the biopsy and what it was, I knew in my heart that it was the worst form of brain tumor. And when he said, I was like, you're not going to tell me it is the glioblastoma multiforme because that's shit. That's the end of my life, essentially. I'd done the research and I found all these alternate ideas.
But generally, what you found was not really encouraging, right?
No.
Time or solutions or anything.
No, there's very little to be known back then. It's become more mainstream now. There's thousands of people across the planet who are just doing ketogenic diets or metabolic management of their cancer because it makes sense and because it works to an extent. I'm still dying, but it's taking me a very, very long time to be that terminal patient that they think I am.
Well, if you probably agree on that, but philosophically speaking, we all dying when we are born. So right, but so what was your attitude? That's what I'm very much interested. So you figure out this is a very deadly disease. Statistically speaking, not many people are surviving more than a year.
No.
And then, so what was your thinking? Your thinking was like, okay, so let's give this bastard a good fight. Or so what went through your brain?
Okay, like it all kind of happened when I was told what it was in that room, because I kind of when he told me there's glioblastoma, I kind of looked, I was shocked, and I went, "Oh fuck my life!" That's the biggest. I actually shouted, "Fuck my life!" I got really upset, really depressed, really quickly. But in that space, I had that out of body experience. I like wasn't present with this body. I was just kind of like somewhere else mentally. And I looked across at my mum and my partner Becky, and I just felt there's something worth fighting for. There's more than me. There's more than me in this. So I've got all these people that are supporting me. Why should I give up the fight just because I'm told I'm going to die? But then I'm not going to die. I said that to myself. I reinforced it. I said I'm going to love my life. I am alive. I'm living, and I will love it. I'm loving it. I reinforced it positively. Like people say it's hard to do that because you get all these things in the background telling us it's not possible. But I just went, fuck that noise. I mean, pardon me swearing all the time, but it's the best way I can express myself. Because in that moment, I went, I've got to do this. This is what I'm doing.
So
the idea of being present with it.
So, how much do you think that your results so far is because of stress management? So how much focus you put on stress management? Because that is something that most people who are dealing with chronic diseases, especially cancer, I mean, it's very normal they are stressed out for a reason. So it's very easy to tell them like you should not get so stressed. I mean, hello. I mean, they are.
Yeah.
So did you notice that you have to change your attitude towards this situation?
But it's about, instead of hating it, learn to love it, and that's the hardest thing. Like it took me a long time. I didn't do that overnight. It took me a long time. I kind of loved it, and then I hated it, and then I loved it, and then I hated it, and I was like, when is this going to end? And then at one point I just stopped caring about when it would end. I started focusing at the idea of death and accepting it rather than fearing it as the end goal. I was like, it's going to happen. It doesn't matter when it happens anymore because I've been doing this for so long. I should have died back in 2014, 2015, but I'm not dead I'm not dead. That's in the past. That's an idea. And a fear of death in the future, that's also an idea. It doesn't exist.
Yes.
I've learned to accept that it does not exist until I get there.
So what was the point when you said, well, I just don't want to worry about these whole things, what you mentioned that, and what was there any technique you used? If you can boil it down to a technique, or just said like, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I just try to.
Well, I mean, look, if you look at people like, I don't know if you've heard of Muji or Sai Baba or Eckhart Tolle or the Dalai Lama, all these people, they teach us things because they've kind of like locked in on what it is to be human. And the only way to, it's hard to describe, but actually, it actually all started when I was speaking to my acupuncturist. He's called Raman. He's from Middle East, but he's in England. He's a really nice guy, and he helped me find the right path to doing the ketogenic diet properly. But he also wanted me the whole time, every time we talk, every time I get to see him. I don't see him that often anymore because of Corona, but when I do see him, we have the same conversation. It is this idea that anything we do is wrong or right. It is just something we do. And the idea is that, like, if you're present and you can watch yourself being an arsehole, then you can stop yourself and you can pull back and go, I'm really sorry I said that because I didn't mean it. I was just acting out the person that is Pablo, an identity that doesn't exist. I guess that's the only way I've dealt with this, is like, it came to the point where we were going to give birth to our first child, who's now 3, and we were scared. Initially we got scared. We're like, if I bring her into this world and then I die, what's the point in all this?
Mhm.
I had to really look at that. And then I just went, I want to see what happens. I want to experience this because it's part of life, you know?
Mhm. I didn't know if I want to talk about this, but well, what the heck? So the before we talked, I was really thinking about to postpone the interview seriously because one of my best friends just died this morning from cancer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of not the best feeling. Let's put it that way.
No.
However, I have to say that, however, I visited him. He was in hospice, so I visited him pretty often, and we were worried. I mean, the family and the friends were worried. He was cool. I mean, he was the coolest guy. I mean, he was just joking around with all the nurses and everything. I felt bad about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because he had the best jokes, to be honest. And he just went to sleep this morning. So in a way, it's a relief. In a way, it's not, of course. And that was, I tried to figure out, but now I can ask you. And that was the reason that how important is, and again, I just repeat myself, stress management is something that it's not really valued by oncology, but also nutrition is not valued. And I just give you a story. So please tell me that in the UK, the doctors are different, because this is what happened with my friend. He's been diagnosed with a cancer. We sat down, again, best friend of mine, and he knows what I'm doing, right? So he asked me, like, what do you think? How am I supposed to eat? And I'm like, thank you for asking me. I think you should eat, a specific way.
Yeah.
And most probably it's closer to ketogenic diet. That was, the suggestion. So, but I'm not a doctor. So he goes back to the doctor and asking the doctor, like, one of my friend is a professional on this field, and he suggested this. What do you think? It's like, nah. You don't have to worry about it. Just come back for your chemo, and make sure you are eating a lot of stuff so you are not losing weight. That was all. So was your same experience?
Well, with my doctors, the ones that I never see and don't talk to anymore, because
okay, all right.
There's nothing that they can do to help me. So they don't actually. Was the last person I saw was my surgeon, who did the awake craniotomy in 2017, and that was like 3 years ago. So we've got no idea what they would say now. I mean, in their letters, they just say, I see you're doing well. We're gonna take you off this palliative care or whatever it is. I don't really exist in their system anymore, apart from scans. And I have a scan every year now because I'm doing so long. So.
But the reason you are not existing in this system because you don't fit to this system, right? Because statistically speaking, you are not alive anymore.
I've been told many times from my general practitioners to my oncology and surgeons that I'm just very lucky for having reached this point. Just very lucky. They don't acknowledge anything I've done. They just say you're lucky. And I could say, well, I've actually worked my life off to get to this point where I'm still here. But they won't accept that because it doesn't fit into the medical paradigm of slash burn cut.
So what was the point when you said, okay, so my research brought me to the conclusion that ketogenic diet should be probably the one that I should test at least.
Yeah, in the beginning, you mean? Was this idea that I, because I had epilepsy due to the brain tumor, if I can control the epilepsy, maybe there's an opening for me to control the tumor. That's I don't have a scientific background. I failed science at school, but I've got an understanding of what I want to do and how I want to live. So I just chose instinctually rather than choosing without judgment, like being told something. I wasn't going to just do that because I saw my granddad dying because of liver cancer, because of chemotherapy and radiotherapy. He wasted away because it didn't do anything good for him. So I had that image in my mind that basically, if I was going to die, I don't want to die like that. I don't want to die without knowing who my own daughter is and my grandchildren are. I want to die knowing who everyone is around me. and actually feeling the love.
Mhm. Sure.
If there is nothing at the end, then I want to at least go out with some sort of feeling.
Mhm. Do you feel, maybe it's a strange question, so apology, but do you feel somehow responsible now that you have this knowledge? You are on this path, and people are turning to you and asking questions, and you have to, like, I don't know, how do you feel about that?
I feel slightly responsible. Yeah, I feel like that if someone's got a chance and they don't take it, then they're missing out on living.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't want to take the chance, and I create my own little business where I want to help consult people. But I'm actually quite a poor person because I don't have much. I can't work. We're raising a new child, and my fiance wants to actually do it properly by breastfeeding for as long as possible, not just put her into care.
Sure.
As soon as I'm done, and then hope for the best. We want to be an active part in our lives, in our children's lives, rather than be apart from it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm just like charging £50 for a chat with people, a 20-minute chat, because I can't, talking for long periods of time is tiring for my brain. I know my limits, so I try and I don't push beyond them too much. But yeah, it's just like getting people to talk to me so they can understand that they have options in between standard of care and with standard of care.
Mm-hmm.
They can utilize all aspects of this healing process. It's not like you can't just be external. Healing is internal, mental. It's all of it. It's physical. You can't just go, I'll focus on one little bit.
Mm-hmm. How much do you think that? Especially in the Western life, how much the fixing or dialing in your sleep could add to the healing process? Is it
quite a lot? It's all about that biohacking. It's all over the internet at the minute. Biohacking, the idea that you need lots of sleep, you need sunlight, you need water, importantly salt, all these little things that create the best kind of human body you need. But it's completely not educated. It's like no one has any idea.
So basically, right now you're eating ketogenic or
carnivore.
Oh, it's more carnivore. Okay, which we know that red meat causes cancer, right? We 100% know that. So
sorry, no, that's not known.
Yeah, I know, but so what takes a cancer patient, let's put it that way, into the direction eating something which, according to the science right now, and I'm using science like that, so causing cancer. So what made you think that my mTOR will be in the roof, and then IGF-1 will be high, and then I'm constantly in the risk of cancer? So what made you to decide that direction? And I'm ironic.
I never really thought about it in those terms. I just I go by how I feel, and if I don't feel, the only problems I have are my epilepsy and my fatigue from having a brain tumor that also causes all these problems because of epilepsy. So it's just it's a fine balance in my life. That's the only things I feel are wrong with me. My energy levels are good. I'm physically able. I'm mentally able when I'm not tired. So I'm not seeing any negative symptoms from just eating meat. And I don't always eat red meat. I sometimes, sorry, I do. Yeah, it's beef or lamb. That's my preference. I don't eat any bipedals because the omega-6 ratio is in balance. So it's just, it's being clever about it and not eating too much. Anything in excess is going to cause problems, but if you eat just the right amount and you eat fast and you do all these clever things in between, you're going to have the best time in your life.
Do you feel do you have a very tight feedback system? And what I mean that the moment when you make a mistake in your diet or sleep or anything else, then you start to feel the symptoms coming back faster or stronger.
For example, yesterday I mowed both of my lawns front and back. I don't normally do that. It was really hot outside. I didn't take a drink. I didn't rest in between. And then within 2 hours, I had a grand mal seizure. And that was because I just didn't look after my body and I didn't listen to my limitations. I decided I can do it all in one go and then get it done, and then I don't have to do any more. So in some cases, I have to be clever and I have to stop, and I just go, all right, I'll leave that as it is.
So are you actually, because of your case and because, again, responsibility, because people are looking at you now, so did you start to study beyond your case?
No, because I don't have the tools to do that really at the minute. like I said, I'm impoverished. Now, when I say that, I'm not very well off. I'm living like under my means.
Mm.
So I'm kind of struggling to stay afloat. Even like carnivore diet, right? I'm eating organic produce, best source produce, and make sure it's sustainably sourced. So it's all got to be above board because it's going to be the healthiest kind of meat I can find. But it's not cheap; it's expensive.
Sure.
So all these things, all of our money goes on food, and then bills come after that. And that's not how it should work. It should be that everything is all set up for you, but it's not. That's and that should be stressful. But I kind of, I'm just doing what I can in the moment to try and better my family and myself, my future, because that's all we can do in life, I think. Most of these billionaires, I'm sure, like if they weren't rich already, they started off from a poor place and they worked their way up the ladder. So, I don't do this for fame or glory. I'm doing this because I need to live. I need to do something with this experience because it needs to be told. People need to know. It's a shame that it's not being told. It's not being brought into the education system, that there is more to science than just chemicals and these ideas.
So when people turn to you, that you start to get also feedbacks of people are living beyond the expectation.
Yeah. I've heard lots of people are doing this, and it's fascinating to hear that they're doing it slightly different ways and different experiences, but they're still doing it, and it's amazing. Different cancers will have different success rates with different types of things, so that's what they're doing. Cannabis is a big one. People say it cures their brain cancer and all these things. So that's amazing. And all these things are like they're viewed as bad things that you shouldn't be doing because it doesn't make sense for the general population. I think people need to take a small stand and say, well, I'm living for me. I'm not living for the system. I'm living for myself, my family, and I want to survive because why? Who wouldn't? If a politician was to get ill, like the president of the United States was to get brain cancer, what would he do? He'd probably follow the system, so he was viewed as being this part of the system to prove that it works. But that's a lie. I don't get why people do this. It's all about compassion and sharing what your experience with others. And I started doing that from the onset. I wrote my little blog, which has now got a little over 2,500 followers. It's a small viewing, but it's all people that needed that hope and that inspiration to survive. So I just did it. I did it for me. And then suddenly people saying, wow, your insight is amazing. And thank you for sharing, because it's actually given me some insights of my own.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you say that because this is how it starts. I mean, somebody has to, not just talking about, what might work, but also it's great to see somebody who is proving it works as a living example. And thank you to the traditional oncology. We don't have many of those, to be honest. Well,
I don't think they're wrong for doing what they're doing. I don't think they're necessarily or fundamentally wrong. They've just been they've been told that this is what works and what they should do, and they haven't looked outside the little box of learning that they've experienced. So they don't go, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. Why am I not looking at this more? My oncologist won't look at it. She may have looked at it and gone, well, it's not going to work for this system, so why would I use it? And it's a shame that no one in that position could, instead of thinking, oh, oncology works, go, oh, let's integrate this, let's integrate that, let's make it more of a thing for people to survive longer. It seems to lack a bit of basic compassion and love. It's all logic, and that doesn't make sense. It's heartless.
So thanks to all the things you do, where is your disease right now? So
it's stable. It's growing extremely slowly, but it's stable. So they'd have to look at it over a basis of 2 years to see the scans and compare. Okay, right. So it was this small, and now it's slightly big. But I've been told by one of the top radiographers, I think, in the world. He actually trains radiographers to be good radiographers. He said to me, you will need to have another to me at some point. But obviously, if I could utilize the things that are illegal and greatly enhance my experience, then I'd probably be able to slow that right down. But that's not an option. I've just got to do what I can do in the moment. So
Sure. Okay. Now, I think there are a lot of lessons that can be learned from you. So I really encourage everybody who can learn from you to contact you and probably book a session with you, because that's definitely,
if they want to, it's up to them. Because if they want to follow the standard care, that's also fine. I just wish that they would also broaden their horizons a little bit and look beyond what they think they know and what they're told they know. Because what you're told works sometimes doesn't work.
Yes.
If you're told to jump off a cliff and there's rocks at the bottom, you're not going to do it. But if you believe in the system, people will do it. They'll be like, "Oh, it's what works," and then they'll die, and then that'll be that.
Sure.
That's a bad analogy, but
no, I got it. I got it. Pablo,
I question themselves and their own existence. If they don't do that, then they're not really human. They're just following a system that blindly tells them to follow the system. There's nothing outside of that. No, just keep your blinkers on. No, that guy's telling, "Oh, this is the truth," and you're like, "No, it's not the truth."
Sure. Yeah, I agree. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your honesty, and I really hope that through podcast and your blog, more and more people will see that it's possible to beat the odds, because that's what you are doing basically, right? You're beating the odds. So I really appreciate your time, and I thank you. For me, it was a big honor to talk to you. So I'm really thankful for what you do and how you communicate your case, and that's just a great encouragement to everybody. So thank you very much.